Yes. So, yeah, we were just talking about where we sit to do our podcasts. And it's all cleared off because it was very packed over Christmas.
Packed and stacked with Christmas stuff.
Exactly. And you'll notice I flipped the desk around.
I did.
And I'm going to keep it that way because...
Well, you don't really sit back there behind there
no,
anymore.
Right. So I moved where the cash thing is. And anyways, you wouldn't care unless you come in.
Yeah, I was going to say, unless you're actually here on a day-to-day basis, you just see the same background all the time. And just see us. You don't even see the table.
No.
You're just on the table.
We're on the table, so there you go.
So
we're not very exciting.
We're just rambling about nothing, about stuff that has nothing, that won't affect you in any way, shape, or form.
And like our podcast says, we'll talk about anything, everything,
and nothing at all.
There you go.
And it may be nothing at all today.
Although you were mentioning that you're kind of feeling tired.
Yeah, I've been too tired for my whole life. No.
It starts to feel that way. It's like, am I ever going to catch up with the sleep that I've deprived myself of?
I will say I didn't feel that tired yesterday. I mean, I had moments of tiredness because I think it almost becomes like a learned tiredness. You know, like you're always perpetually tired. That like you, without even consciously realizing it, you start complaining like, oh, I'm tired because you're so used to doing it.
Yeah. So or you get that 3 o'clock doldrum thing happening.
Oh yeah. Mine's always like around just before the kids come home from the bus.
Yes.
And I'm always like, I want to go to sleep. I'm like, I can't because I have to pick up the kids in like 5 minutes. It's like the worst feeling.
That's when your body's like, yeah, we're going to shut all this down right now.
Sometimes it's like I can only last for so long, and then like after I feed them dinner, I'll pass out 7 o'clock like on the couch, and then I just like I end up getting the kids to bed. I'm like, oh god.
Yeah, I do the same thing around 7 or 8 while we're watching TV. I can keep my eyes closed. But come like 10 o'clock when we're starting to get ready for bed, I'm like, awake.
Exactly. I do the same thing. Like I'll be like, I'm so tired. I'm just like, just go to bed. I'm like, okay. And so I like go to bed. I do like my routine. I wash my face, brush my teeth.
Yeah.
And I'll get in bed. I'm like, and I'm awake. I want to read. And I'm like, what the? Where was
and then
all
you
this?
Read to 2 in the morning.
Oh,
or
I know. I've had to force myself. Like the other night, I went to bed early. Not last night, but the night before. And I actually did wake up feeling rested. I went to bed around like 11, and I've been waking up earlier because I has to get up earlier, so I've been waking up earlier just to spend more time with them. It's made like mornings getting the kids ready easier too. But it's been rough because I did not alter my sleeping schedule to fit that. I didn't go to bed earlier. So the other night I did, and I was like, oh, I should do that every night. I did not do that last night, of course, because
well, your body gets into weird habits. Like over the Christmas holidays, I started staying up later and giving myself permission to read later. So I slept in later because of that, right? And but then now I'm having to get back to real world stuff, you know, and it's like, okay, I have to get up a little earlier. I can't sleep in. And they say actually, if you are trying to catch up on your sleep, it's better to go to bed early than sleep in.
I can see that because I find like when I sleep in, I just feel more tired. Like I almost wake up feeling more tired.
Yeah. And then I've got the guilt thing of, oh my God, it's already time. Yeah, I wasted the morning. It's all gone now.
Yeah.
And then your day feels shorter.
And then you stay up late because like, well, I did slept in. It becomes a vicious cycle of doing the same thing over. Yeah, I was pretty bad over.
We're pretty bad creatures as far as sleep goes.
I know. I will say the times I do go to bed early and I wake up, I'm like, oh, I should feel rested. So I'm like, I have to be more mindful. I'm like more mindful about other things, like, you know, making sure I'm, you know, eating well, taking care of my body in some ways, but like with sleeping and drinking water are the 2 things I need to work on.
Yeah, and it's weird because those are the 2 things. Like I recently lost or released about 65 pounds.
Oh wow.
Now I gained some back over the Christmas holidays.
I was just say I definitely gained weight over the holidays.
But people ask me, what did you do? What I did was I drank more water and I slept a full 8 hours every night. And it made and sometimes 9. And sleep was the big factor, that because
your body can heal and
it
does whatever it needs to do while we're
balance
sleeping.
Yourself, because your body wants to be
balanced
in balanced state, right? And that's naturally where you go to. It's us that make the bad decisions.
Us being awake, staying up late, drinking too much coffee,
yes, exactly.
Not drinking enough water,
yes,
maybe it's not stretching our bodies, not working out, maybe
Yeah, there's
having
all
too
kinds
many
of things
processed
to
sugars.
maintain this machine. And they do say, like you were saying earlier, women need more sleep
Yeah.
than men.
They do say that, yeah. Anyone who's like AFAB or cis woman need need more sleep. I think it
Right.
has something to do with like something to do with like the hormones in our bodies, and that just like as you were saying before, we're more complex
Yeah.
in some of the aspects. If you keep all your original aspects.
Yes. As female, we are a more complicated machine.
But well, and also just not as tested.
Yeah, well, that's because it's easier to get medicine for men, because they're not as complicated, right?
Well, slash it's just been skewed.
Yes, yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
I would say
But
I don't like the idea that we're more complicated. I think it just we're perceived as more complicated because we haven't done the research to properly understand an AFAB body.
no, that's true. But we are more complicated, which is okay. It's just, because not every size fits all, even in the female world, so to speak, right? Like, you could have period problems and I could have period problems, but they're no one is the same.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is like, oh, it's just your period. It's sort of like where I am in my stage of life. Oh, you're just getting old. It's just old.
You're old.
it's an old thing.
My arm has fallen off. You're just old.
Exactly. It's like that seems to be the explanation for everything
Yeah.
lately
It's
for
like,
me.
yeah, it's true. There's like always fun. There's like, unless you're like a cis man or like, male presenting, you're not listened to as often when you complain about problems.
Yes.
Because for like if you're overweight in any way or obese in any
Oh,
way, it's always like to
yes.
do with your weight, which is like, okay, well that's not going to play a factor necessarily. Or
Yeah.
if you're
And they've shown that too.
yeah, or if
But
you're
the medical field definitely says, oh, you're overweight, therefore you must be
yeah
ill in some way.
exactly. And then if you're like AFAB or cis woman, they'll be like, oh well,
What is AFAB?
it's a identified female at birth.
Oh, okay. Okay. Because if you're transitioning.
Assigned female at birth. Yeah.
Okay, so if you're transitioning, sometimes you still have the female piping, so to speak.
It's just like when you're born, they labeled you as female.
Oh, okay.
So like
Oh,
I'm
okay.
non-binary, so I would be considered AFAB because
Because you were.
I was
Labeled
as female at birth.
Oh, okay.
So it can be
Okay.
anyone. Like it doesn't have to be transition. It could be like,
Oh,
or even
okay.
if you just prefer not to.
So
do
I'm
it.
AFAB.
You can. Well, do you identify as? Do you identify as? Would you consider yourself identified as female?
I do.
Then you would typically say you're cisgender.
Cisgender?
Cis like woman. You're
Cis woman.
Cis
Okay.
woman, cisgendered. Because
Okay.
I mean, like, because cis means like you identify to what you were labeled as.
Oh, okay.
So AFAB, like,
Does cis stand for something?
it does. It's Latin for something, which
okay.
is
Okay.
I
But
cannot.
generally speaking, I was labeled as female at birth and
Yeah.
I kept that label.
Yeah,
and
that's the
that's
same
how-
thing with trans. Trans is also Latin. It comes from a Latin term.
Oh, right. Well,
And
a lot
so-
of our words come
Yeah,
from
and we're Latin.
terms.
Shocking! It comes from Latin, and it's just like if someone were to be like transitioning or like identify differently than what they were assigned at birth, they would be considered trans. It's just like a
Oh,
noun.
okay.
It's just like an adjective. Like
Okay.
you are, I'm a fat person.
Right. Yeah.
You're
I love that you're embracing that word. It's sort of like you're taking the power back from it.
Yeah.
Sort of like what I'm doing with the chaos. It's like chaos is not, it's often viewed as a negative. It's also a female word, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of our like lunacy and are based in Latin, but Latin also has the male female like French does.
Yeah.
Right. And so female lunacy, all these kind of hysteria are, female verbs
Yeah,
for things
they're often viewed as
That-
negative.
that are viewed as negative or, bad in some way. Right? Oh, she's just hysterical, right?
It's hysterical.
And, it's like,
I mean, she is hysterical.
yeah. But like Judge Marilyn Milan says, and I love her show,
Milan.
is, what does she say now? There was something I was going to say.
Something really awesome that
It
we're all
was really
waiting
awesome. It totally went out of my head.
Makes me think of that one.
I love when
like,
she uses her
meme.
Spanish terms, right? So she'll translate them for you, right?
Yeah.
So one of her big ones is tell me I itch over here, but you scratch me over there. It's sort of when someone's trying to be deceptive.
Yeah, they're
right?
trying to like deceive you.
Yeah, exactly. So I can't remember what she said, but it was wonderful.
It made me think of that one clip of that one guy from Colonel. I can't think of his name. Colonel of Mines. He's like, there was this quote by this person who I can't remember now. And it went something like, oh, I don't remember. Like, it was like exactly that situation. Like, something really awesome that I don't remember at all.
In about 10 minutes, I'll probably just randomly say
Yeah.
it because I'll be like, oh, now I know what was gonna
I
say.
feel like as soon as you put too much pressure on your brain in any capacity, it's like, and completely gone. Like when you asked me about
Crumples up the
Ayanda's
cue card
official
and-
title,
Yes.
even though I've been saying it for weeks, as soon as you asked me, like,
I don't know.
I've lost the
He works
information.
at a bank, and that's about all I know.
That's, something.
Yeah, you got all these cue cards in your head, and the brain's just crumpling them up and throwing them away.
Exactly.
She doesn't need this one. Let's
Yeah.
get rid of that one.
You spilled your coffee all over it. Now the ink is blood and there's nothing on them anymore. They're unusable.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. So yeah, sleep is very, very
Sleep is-
important because it's a nocturnal. Well, it's because healing is a nocturnal activity.
Yes.
You can't heal cuts, depression, bloated stomachs, whatever
Yeah.
it might be.
Isn't it our body that needs to sleep, but not our brains? Is it something I've heard before?
It's
or-
our brain that needs sleep.
Is it the brain? Okay, because I was like, isn't there like
the
it's
body
one
needs rest?
rest? Okay, because I
but
knew
the
it was.
brain needs
I
sleep.
couldn't remember which one it was. I'm like, isn't there one that like needs like just rest and one that
Yeah.
needs sleep?
Like if we didn't have our brains, we could just rest our body for
we had
20
no
minutes
brains,
at a
it'd be
time
a zombie.
and go off. Right, exactly. Yeah, that's why zombies can keep walking.
That's why they walk so slow.
Yeah.
They need rest.
Exactly.
That's why sometimes you see them in films and they're just
Yeah, they're just standing against
until
the
they
wall.
hear a noise. They're like, oh, I've had enough break. I can eat.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, dinner's arrived. Okay.
Oh, wonderful. We didn't even have to move anywhere. Let's
Exactly.
go, everyone.
But if you want to heal yourself, and it doesn't matter what the issue is, and part of me losing that weight or releasing that weight is finding that balance that's best for me, and it's done nocturnally.
That makes sense.
So it's only when you're sleeping that you heal, right?
Your body doing all the background work. You don't have to lift a finger.
Yeah, because when we're awake,
Well, except for maybe provide it with the nutrients it needs and enough hydration.
yes, yeah.
I mean, there's some things you have to do.
Yes, exactly. And hydration is a big one.
I know I don't drink enough water. I'm very bad for drinking
Right,
water. I was
right.
good and then I went bad, and I will drink a coffee all day long. If you hand me a coffee, I'm like, sure, I'll take a coffee. Yeah, I'll take a coffee.
Yeah, me too. Like when I'm at home, I definitely drink more coffee. I try to get water in, but that's part of my, new starts, new year
Yeah.
kind of thing. It's not a resolution because I don't do those.
I don't do those either. No, I don't think it's a good idea.
But I like to look at my habits and see where improvement can happen.
Yeah,
Right. But when I'm at work, I don't have any coffee.
I definitely used to drink a lot more water when I worked. Like when
Yeah.
I was cashiering, because you get thirsty talking to people all day.
Yes.
So
yeah.
I used to have like a huge thing of water, and I would drink so much water, tons. I was
Yeah.
constantly going pee too. It was great.
Yeah.
No, not really, but
Well, it gave you a break every 2 hours.
it did. It was helpful that way.
'Cause I find I pee every couple hours.
I do. Sometimes I pee more, but I still feel like I have a small bladder. I don't know. Sometimes I can go for so long. I'm a camel.
Oh,
Other
okay.
times it's like oh, I have access to a bathroom, and I'm just like
I just
let me
need it.
Just
Your
let me-
body's like, yep, there's a bathroom. Let's go.
It's like, oh, new one we haven't tried. Let's go. It's like, oh.
Well, I have to treat myself like a child because before I get in the car, it's like, did you pee? You should pee one last time.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw something that was saying that that's not good for you because, I mean, obviously, like, do it if you know that works
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
And obviously, everyone's situation different, but I saw that thing about, like, because oftentimes parents do that, right?
Yeah.
Because it's inevitable that your kid will be like, I have to go pee as you're in the car. You're like, I
Yes.
just need to go to the bathroom before. But they do say it's not good to teach them that because then it'll always condition their body.
Yeah.
So, which I'm
I
like,
can see
when I
that.
saw that, I was like, oh, that's a valid point. I never thought
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah.
But I'm still going to ask my child to.
Yeah.
I'm
Do
like, if you
need
don't,
to go pee?
yeah, you don't have
go.
to go if you don't need to.
Yeah.
But do you need to go before we?
Yeah, exactly. Because I've seen parents, when I was a kid, I'd go over to a friend's house or whatever, and they'd be like, pee before we leave. And they'd make them go to the
Ian
bathroom.
is a bit like that. He can do that. And now when he's not around, I'm just like, well, if you have to go, go.
Right. Yeah.
But if you don't have to go, like, just think if you have to go. If you don't need to go, that's fine. But
It's good to teach them to be aware of their body
Yeah.
and what your body needs, right? Because waste is a very important thing. A friend of mine almost died of constipation,
Yeah, you can.
and you don't realize how important that whole system is.
It is very important.
And she was still pooping.
Yeah, that's the concern.
Yeah, because the doctor came in, and I didn't know this. I thought constipation meant you can't poop. I've been constipated, and it's been like, oh my God, I will give my kingdom if I could just drop this. You know?
Yeah.
And, but she said, well, I was still pooping, so I didn't really realize, right?
Yeah.
And the doctor said, you can still poop because your body will still get rid of the mega waste it needs to get rid of. But it's still keeping a lot back.
I know. Annabelle's been constipated. She's had chronic constipation.
Oh,
and we're still
dear.
working on it.
Yeah.
It's getting better,
Okay.
but it's still not great. And it's like I always think about that. I'm always paranoid. It's like, oh my God. So I'm always like, anytime she feels any type of sickness, I'm like, are you okay? Do you have a fever?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
what's wrong with you?
Right, right.
How's your appetite? How's your stomach feel? Do you have any
Exactly.
pains?
Point to where the pain is.
Yeah. Where's it hurt?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I find if I get to that condition, because I'm on medication that can cause constipation, so I find fruit really helps, especially bananas.
Oh, see, I saw kiwi, so I'm trying to get her to eat kiwi.
Okay.
We bought a big thing from Costco. I was able to give
For
her.
me, bananas do it. So.
Oh, I'll have to try and get her to eat some bananas. We have bananas too. But I saw this thing about like kiwi. It was like a whole study done. If you have if you have chronic constipation, and you have 2 kiwis a day for 4 weeks,
Oh.
that's supposed to help.
See, I have 2 bananas a day,
Ah,
so it's fiber, right?
Yeah.
So
I gave her a couple so far. Because she's smaller, I figured 1 a day should probably
Yeah,
be
yeah.
suffice. I haven't
I
had to.
don't know why as kids they do medication by weight, but they stop that as an adult.
Oh, you definitely need more. I was actually just talking to someone about that because I was saying like, because I'm a fat person, like a lot, and she's the opposite spectrum, so she's a lot
Yeah.
tinier.
Yes.
So we were both talking about how like we have to take the dose in consideration because
Yeah.
oftentimes I can take a bit more, not like I can take tons more,
No.
but I can take a little bit
You're not
more.
shoving a whole bottle of Tylenol down
No,
your throat.
exactly. Like usually I have to take a little bit more for it to be effective
Yeah.
to the full extent to get the full benefit because I am fatter. And where she on most medications finds she actually takes less because if she takes the full thing,
It's too much.
It's too much. It doesn't make her feel good. And
Right.
because of course it's obviously based on like whatever kind of average or medium they've
Yeah.
provided that
Because
for
I
the
mentioned that
population.
to my old family doctor. I have a new family doctor. And I mentioned it, and he said, actually, that makes a lot of sense.
It feels weird that he said that makes a lot of sense. You know this, you're a
Yeah,
doctor.
Exactly. And then I mentioned it to the new doctor, and he's like, no, that, it's like, well, why does it work when you're a kid, but not as an
I was
adult?
say, I'm like, I feel, the medication doesn't change that drastically.
But who am I, lowly and humble that I am,
This is
to judge the doctors?
Yeah, God forbid we advocate for ourselves.
Exactly.
Oh my God, really good.
Oh, good. She's having key lime
Greek yogurt,
Greek yogurt with chai seeds, right?
chia seeds.
Chia seeds, sorry.
Chia.
Just like the commercial. She
Sprout.
opened the seed pack and now her hair will be lovely green
This
and
is all
curly.
chia seed. Not my natural.
Yeah, exactly.
This is really good, actually.
Oh, good.
If you're looking for something that tastes like dessert, this is good.
Yeah, I love eating yogurt. Like it took me a long time to embrace yogurt because I didn't like the tang.
I remember
of it.
you, yeah.
So
love
I
tangy
like
things.
strawberry and peach. Right now it's the go-tos for me. I still like. I like yogurt because I know it's a healthier choice than like ice cream. So I do tend to treat it like a dessert, right? I'll have a little bowl of, peach yogurt or something as my dessert, which is probably better for me than, ice cream or whatever else I might want to take in.
See, I just had the yogurt and also ice cream. I still have my sweet treats.
Oh, don't worry about that. Yeah, sugar is my poison of choice.
I don't smoke, don't drink,
No.
I don't do drugs,
No.
but I sure like a sweet treat after dinner.
Now I do drugs as far as like marijuana and stuff. I do that.
Yeah,
because
but that's
I'm doing it for pain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's pain management, right? I
doesn't count
knocked
it.
my mom so hard for it when she had fibro because it
look
wasn't
what the
legal.
universe provided you with.
Oh yes, I was on her like white on rice, and I was just like, why is she doing this? Because it was an illegal thing at that point, right? I'm like, you're becoming a drug user, a druggie.
You're getting hooligan.
Exactly.
You're turning into one of those punk kids.
Exactly. And only because in high school I had a really bad experience with marijuana that was laced.
Yeah, that's not fun. That's
No,
scary.
that was very scary. So that scared me off drugs for a very long time.
Valid.
Yeah.
That's very valid.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it's still a big concern.
Yeah.
Since so many are also laced. I mean, it's easier now because of being legalized. Obviously, there's like,
Well, that's
it's
the
very, it's
beauty
made a
of
lot safe.
legalizing this drug so that you can go to reputable retailers and you're not having to go down dark alleys to get it, right? Which is
I laugh because it's like, how often were you going down dark alley? Like, that's not
where you think the drugs are.
you go on the corner in the dark alley.
However, in Prague, around the 20th, I think they start. Every dark alley has a pool full of carp for their Christmas Eve
Everybody
dinner.
telling me.
So going down dark alleys isn't as bad in Prague because
All
you're
you
just going
get
to
is
see a
a-
bunch of fish and guys selling the fish.
Yeah. Hey, you want some fish?
Yeah. That don't speak English. They only speak Czech.
Oh, I don't know.
And
how to
there's
say
two
Czech.
dialects in Prague apparently of Czech. And one guy who could speak some English. We were at his shop and one guy came in and was speaking Czech and he got really angry with him. I'm not sure why.
Oh, jeez.
And he said he's speaking a dialect that I don't understand. It's like, that's not even Czech. At least that's what he was saying. It's like, maybe you just didn't understand the guy.
It makes me think of like in the UK where they often talk about like different
Oh, yeah.
accents depending on where you're from.
Yeah.
And like some of them were like, I literally have no idea what you just said.
Yeah,
like, it's
exactly.
The dialect is so tricky. You're like,
Yeah, like you've seen it in movies where it's Cockney is one of the.
that's one that came to mind.
Yeah,
'Cause that's
that's
often
like-
the one that people are like, I have no idea what you just said to me.
Yeah, or like in Ireland, they say you're speaking Irish when you're speaking Gaelic, and nobody understands it, or at least not as many these days.
Not as common.
The young ones have not embraced it.
Yes, unfortunately.
Did you ever watch Dairy Girl?
Oh yeah, it's my go-to show when I want
love
something in the
that
background.
And I love
that.
it when they say he's speaking Irish or whatever, because of course it's always one of the girls that don't understand what the person's just said.
It's such a good show. It's so funny.
Oh, it is so funny. It's so ridiculous.
I wish it I knew it was always only going to be a short show, but I wish it was longer than for 3 seasons because it's so
Yes,
funny. I love it
yes.
so much.
Yeah,
I rewatch it a lot.
I just finished rewatching Arrested Development.
Oh yeah, Papa was just talking about that. That makes sense now why he said that.
Yeah. I love that series. I love that, that they were able to come back
Yeah,
because it got canceled.
Yeah.
And then Netflix picked it up.
Picked it up. It was one of the first times I think shows like that. I think it was one of the. I wouldn't say the first, but I think it was one of the first times it was something like that happened.
Yeah.
Because I remember at the time, it's been a long time now. But
I don't know why it got canceled. It is on point as far as humor and smart humor.
I haven't watched it in a while, so
Even though there's some toilet stuff, it's done in a smart way, if that makes sense.
It's we're making stupid humor, but we make it for the smart stupids.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's a great show. I love that. What's
Yeah.
your favorite comedy? Or sitcom, I guess.
Mine?
Well, I'm asking the audience
No.
too. Put it
Tell
in the
us.
comments.
Put in the comments. what your
Yeah,
favorite
because I'm
show
looking
is.
for a new series to watch because I've rewatched Seinfeld, which is a classic. Very good. I've rewatched Mom a couple of times.
No, yeah, you've talked about that one. I've never really watched it.
Oh, it's hilarious. It's awesome. I've rewatched Bob's Burgers, and I know you.
To say, I watch Bob's Burgers every day. At least there's always one. I watch an episode at least a day, usually more.
Your Bob's Burgers is like my court shows.
Yeah, I could watch Bob's Burgers all the time. I also like The Office. I'll rewatch The
Oh
Office. a
yeah,
lot.
The Office is great too. Yep.
That's usually a go-to one. And then sometimes I'll go through phases of wanting to watch Buffy.
Oh,
That's not
okay.
comedy. It's
No, that's not.
I mean, it does
comedy.
have humorous moments, of course. It's
but
funny,
it's not. It's not.
It's not a
sold
It's
as-
not. It's not comedy.
Yeah,
It wouldn't be
yeah.
per se label.
Oh, and New Girl.
New Girl. Yeah, I haven't watched New Girl. Sometimes we'll rewatch Modern Family.
Oh, that's a great one
That's
too.
a good one, yeah.
Yeah.
What else?
New Girl's pretty
Simpsons.
hilarious.
Simpsons is often one
Yeah,
I
that's a
rewatch.
classic. Yeah.
Although I haven't been keeping because I don't watch a lot of TV. You know that. Like
Yeah.
I despite the fact that I say I watch Bob's every day, it's because when we eat dinner with the kids, me and her like we don't want to watch a kids show, so we put Bob's on because it's like
it's a happy medium.
yeah,
cartoony,
exactly. The
but
kids
for
like
adults,
and the kids like it, and it's funny for them. And a lot of the inappropriate jokes. Not that there's not that many, but any jokes that just go right over their head,
yeah.
which I love.
Yeah. Well, that's like I watched Three's Company a few months ago, just a couple of episodes because it's a show I grew up with.
Yeah.
And my mom liked watching it because there's a lot of adult humor in it. But Jack Ritter does a lot of physical comedy.
So it was funny for you as a kid because you got this humorous
and I got the slight sort of
undertone,
but I didn't really get it as
as a kid. You don't fully comprehend. You're like, you kind of get what they're saying, but not really, not to the point where like you actually understand why it's funny.
And it's very homophobic.
Oh, I bet.
Like watching it again, I'm like, oh my god, you could not make that show today.
Oh, well, that was like I rewatched Ace Ventura, and I feel like I did this a while back again.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I forgot how much transphobia it has near the end.
Yes, yeah.
And it really off-put me, which made me upset because I was like, well, I really like this movie, but I kind of forgot about this aspect of it. And it kind of ruins the whole movie because you're like, oh, there's all this transphobia. And then I was like, well, I really used to like this movie. I'm like, I feel like and maybe in the future I'll just watch it up until a certain point, and then I'll just be like, okay, and now it ends. Yeah. We never know who the guy is.
Yeah, it's a big mystery.
It's a big mystery we'll never solve. But yeah, there's definitely. Well, even they say like The Office these days wouldn't get made because of like, of course, it has a lot of things you wouldn't talk about in The Office, like some of the race and like there's sexual stuff and like there's like different.
I remember
topics.
The race thing where he's like he puts on. It's sort of like you guess what you are.
Yeah, and it's very stereotyped.
But at the same time, it's not. Michael is being stupid in how he's approaching this. Mm-hmm. And he's being very offensive and inappropriate on how he's approaching.
Yeah, and it's kind of recognized that he is being inappropriate.
Yeah, like he'll pick out Stanley, and he thinks Stanley's this black guy from the hood.
Yeah,
and he sort of thinks this is what I'm supposed to. You know this, Stanley, right?
Yeah, you're all up in this one, and Stanley's just a typical normal
person.
Yeah.
He works in an office. He has a wife. He
works 9 to 5. The worst he's ever
cheated.
Is cheating.
Yeah.
He's cheated more than once.
Yeah.
He's a big cheater.
Yeah, he's a cheater. But he's not from the hood, and he doesn't know all the slang.
Yeah.
It doesn't he? Oh, no, it's the other guy, the black guy from the warehouse. Starts teaching Michael slang.
Yeah, but just stupid words. Yeah. And then he laughs at it. Because sometimes you can tell he forgets. You can tell, I'm sure, that sometimes Mike,
has improv it,
and he's trying to keep a straight face.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all good. I can't ever not think of Papa when I watch that show because he's just exactly like Michael Scott.
He can be, absolutely, for sure.
Not as dumb, but
not quite as dumb.
Moments.
But he has his moments. But Michael always comes through when the sale needs to be done.
Yeah,
he always comes through when his office people need care in some way.
He definitely does have a big heart despite his fumbling dumb ways sometimes.
Yeah, because remember when what's his name? Jim is in charge and he tries to do the birthdays all at once.
Yeah, and he's like, I couldn't do that. I did that too. It didn't work out.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like there's a method to the madness.
Yeah, it's like not everything I do is just because I'm a big bumbling idiot. But sometimes because
I've thought this through.
Or I've been in that situation and knew it wasn't going to work.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of funny. So that's a good one too.
That was a good one.
We're looking for funny sitcoms because I've tried some, and unless they catch me right away, like 2 Canadian ones that I love is Working Moms. It's a great one. It's
I've watched
filmed in Toronto. Very cool. As well as Baroness von Sketch.
Oh yeah,
they're hilarious.
I haven't watched them all the way through, but I've watched those before.
Oh my god, they're just too funny.
I feel like I'm always so behind on TV and movies because we just don't.
Yeah.
I just don't watch enough of it to keep up with it. And when I do want to watch, I usually want to watch something comforting or like I'm watching it as a background thing. So I want something that I can just hear it I
know exactly where you are in the series and stuff.
Or movie or
another
whatever.
good one is kind of cool is Murderville, it's called. So Will Arnett from Arrested Development, he's
Okay.
Job from
Yeah, I know who.
he started this series, and he brings in a star, and everything, the whole show is improv.
Oh, geez.
Like, I think the only thing that isn't is there's a murder and here's what's
only
happened.
murders.
And like he brings in these big stars and they have to improv along with them, right?
Wow.
And of course they're like supposed to be detectives, and it's like, would you like to come along on a case with me and we'll try and figure this out? And so it's like, okay, say something. It's like, and some are better at it than others, obviously.
Yeah. Well, because not just because you're an actor doesn't mean you're an improv actor.
Exactly.
Like, some are good at doing that, and some are just like, oh, give me the lines and I can portray what you're asking.
Yeah,
me.
because I would love it if they did one with Key or Peele,
Oh.
because they're good at improving, right?
People who do who are comedians or do a lot of comedy typically tend to be like better.
Yeah.
I don't want to say they're for sure good at improv, but tend to be better because you do a lot of improv.
Yeah.
I find in that kind of genre or situation.
Yeah, like, or any of the Baroness von Sketch people would be great. I think he sometimes will bring in stars that he thinks maybe aren't going to be as
I
great
mean, I
at
feel like
it.
that would be funnier though, because
Yeah.
it's like I am
It's like-
watching. You suck at this.
Yeah.
This is great.
Kind of on the spot. And he did a special Christmas one where Santa got murdered, and Just Jack from Will and Grace, another great comedy.
Oh, yes.
Was Santa that got murdered, and Jason Bateman was with Will Arnett trying to help solve the
Yeah.
murder. And it was pretty funny. Jack was pretty funny, but Jack and Will Arnett and Jason Bateman, Sean Hayes. Sorry, I keep calling him Jack because I think just Jack, right?
Just Jack.
So Sean Hayes, Will Arnett, and
Jason Bateman
have a podcast.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, it's something about Smartless, I think it's called.
Okay. Everyone has a podcast.
Yeah, but
As
the
we're
three
on
of
a
them-
podcast.
The
or
three
whatever.
of them together are hilarious, and then of course they always have a guest. And apparently Jason Bateman knows everybody in Hollywood, so
Oh,
it's like-
he knows everyone.
he does.
So he's the Ianta of the Hollywood.
Well, he's been in acting since he was a kid.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you would have to know. I would hope so. If you're,
Yeah.
I mean, making good connections and being smart and.
Yeah. So I remember him from Family Ties, I believe it was. He was on
yeah.
the one that Michael J. Fox starred in. So that's a very old one. It's from the 80s.
Very old.
Yeah. We can go even older. Gilligan's Island, for instance.
It's funny that you're talking about this because we were talking about all these types of shows when we just see Grandpapa.
Okay.
Because, of course, Grandpapa watches a lot of TV, and then
Oh,
Papa was
well,
talking
yeah,
about.
because that's all he can do right now.
Yeah.
So, I
and
mean,
so then we're
that's
all
fair.
talking about TV
That's
shows.
when you'll catch up, when you're old.
I know, apparently. I know. I'm so far. Yeah, I'm so far. I rather read. I'd rather be like, oh, I want to. I always have a
but
good.
Grandpapa can't do that anymore
No,
either. So
no.
that's.
Has he tried audiobooks? Have we set him up with audiobooks?
I don't know if he would have the ability to.
But you could have a speaker.
Yeah, yes, yeah. I guess he could, couldn't he? Yeah, I don't know. I'll mention
Talk
it
to the Papa.
Yeah, and see if he can set it up. It's funny when they're setting up something new for Grandpapa though, because he's in his bed and he can't move.
Yeah, yeah.
And he'll be like barking orders. You know?
well, yeah, that's your
Trying
right
to-
as an
trying
old
to-
person. You're allowed to bark as many
But at the
orders.
same time, they were hooking up his Christmas lights so that he could turn them off voice command, right? So before they had it fully hooked up, he was already yelling to try and get them to turn on. And Papa was trying to tell him, I don't have it hooked up yet. I still have to install it. And he's like, okay, Siri, turn on the Christmas lights. It's like, stop
It's
now.
not put on yet. Stop it.
Exactly.
Just give us a goddamn minute. I can see that.
Yeah. So it's funny because we're all going to be there eventually.
Yeah.
Where we're not quite as sharp as we once were.
I mean, he's still real sharp, though.
Oh, he is very sharp, definitely. But I've seen other older people decline quickly.
Yeah.
And there's a lot in the care facility that he's in.
But-
I finally met the woman that says, help me, someone help me. And that's all she says.
Oh my god.
And she's sitting in a
that's so
wheelchair.
Sad.
And
That's terrible.
I know. I don't know what she's needing help with.
I'm
And there's
just saying.
another guy, and I met him too, who obviously doesn't know where he is.
Okay.
And was a business person in his life before.
In his career.
Yeah,
okay.
so he'll say things like, get me my luggage, pack my bags. What city are we in right now? Have I checked in? And it's like...
Tell me you had an assistant without telling me you had an assistant.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of funny where our bodies and brains go to. I hope I stay sharp till, and aware until
Yeah, I would
the
like
end.
to stay sharp
I
and aware.
Because
maybe.
dementia and Alzheimer's and all those kind of brain
It's
diseases,
hard.
very hard on the family.
I think, yeah.
I don't want to forget who you are ever.
Yeah. I feel like it'd be hard because it's like, if you're sharp and you can see how your body declines, that's kind of emotionally taxing onto you.
Mm-hmm.
But not being sharp is emotionally more emotionally taxing on your family. Because, like, even though maybe you'll have lucid moments where you're kind of aware it's happening, you're not going to be really aware of what's happening in some ways.
because I'm not sure, like, what's going on inside that brain.
I mean, yeah, we haven't been there. So.
Yeah, like, is she yelling help, and is she inside going, why am I yelling help? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, I've been in those situations as a woman, because our hormones go all over the place sometimes, right?
Sometimes we have major mood swings.
Exactly.
I've definitely had
and
moments.
the inside me will
Will
sometimes
be very different.
Yeah.
Well, remember as I say I used to have Hulk moments, and I
Yes.
feel like, yeah, I don't anymore. I've worked on my like.
She's controlled her
I'm-
Hulk.
Yes.
He's still in there. He could come out at any
Any
minute.
moment.
But she
What's
would
your-
have to consciously release him.
Exactly. But like I remember when I'd go in moments like that where I'd just be like so angry and just doing stupid stuff, and I'm like, inside you're right, like inside you're like, why am I doing this? You're like, stop. And you're like, but it's like it's almost as if you're like detached from your body, and you're like, I don't know what the
Your
fuck
mouth
I'm doing
keeps
anymore.
yelling, and you're like, why are you yelling? And your mouth is like, stop talking! I'm not yelling. I'm just trying to get my point across. I was like, stop being such a bitch.
I know. I hate the point across situation. I don't like that. I'm just trying to get my point across.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. That bothers me.
That's not a good term necessarily.
That is a triggering term for me for some reason.
Oh, is it? Okay.
I don't know
can see
why.
where it would be for a lot of people because it's sort of I need to step on you to tell you what.
Yeah.
what-
I feel like it's one of those things. It's more like, oh, instead of taking your feelings into consideration and like, maybe apologizing or, I don't know, taking a moment to like humble myself and not put my ego out there.
Yeah.
I have to prove that I'm right to justify why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Right.
Or whatever, what I'm saying.
And there's
what I'm
better
saying.
ways to get your point across. It's sort of like when you say something like, well, sorry, but, you should have
Oh.
butts with your sorries.
Yes.
A conditional sorry. Or even, I don't mean to offend.
Yeah. Or I
I-
didn't mean to hurt you, or that wasn't my intention. I was like,
Or something like, like I would, what was it? There's a specific phrase.
that's like bothers you, or
Yeah, like I don't mean to offend is close to it, but not quite. But it's like whenever someone says something like that, no offense, but,
oh yeah.
and it's like, okay, you're about to offend me then?
Yeah. I have to
And-
catch myself. I find sometimes I say that I'm like, oh, I don't like hearing that, so why am I saying it? Blah.
Right. And also too, I mean, if people have questions, because the world is a changing place and it's always changing. Even in medieval history, I've been reading medieval history lately. There's people who have written about it and they bitched about the change of the young ones, right?
It's
With their
never
rock and roll
ending.
and their hula hoops.
It's never ending. Every generation will hate the young people.
or are confused by it because the young embrace the new.
they are more adaptable to change than we are.
Exactly, and often want change. They don't
Yeah.
want to necessarily
Be
do the-
stuck into what we have enjoyed and done, or
Exactly. And old people often like, why do you want to change that tradition?
yeah,
and
so great.
and there's
So
that middle ground where we can still honor the tradition, but also embrace the
new
change.
things.
But I feel it's better because the world has changed a lot since I was a kid.
Yeah.
Since I was even a new mom.
yeah, I was
You
gonna
know,
say.
and I will tend to ask questions, but I've been jumped down my throat because of certain questions. But it's just like, well, educate me. Take
Yeah.
this moment to tell me what is that like today when I asked you what cis means and what's a sign.
Trans and AFAB and
AFAB.
AMAB.
So AFAB and AMAB, I had no idea what those were.
Yeah.
I simply asked you. You simply told me.
Yeah.
I'm not wrong for asking. You're educated.
I think it just comes to a place of also holding your own education like if you have questions, you know, like I always had a teacher that would be like, he had a whole huge manual for his class. So
Okay.
if you had a bunch of questions, his first answer would be check the manual.
Oh, okay.
Because all
Sort
the
of like-
information is there. So you're
My
kind
mom
of
would say, "Look it up in the
responsible. Yeah,
dictionary."
you're responsible for your own learning, your own education. Ultimately,
Yeah.
It's okay to ask questions, but maybe sometimes it's okay to be like, okay, I have a question. Maybe I don't understand. It doesn't mean you don't have to understand right in that moment. It just means I have learning I need to do, and I have to be responsible. So you'd be like, okay, let me put that down.
Yes.
So I can
I've
ask
done
that question.
I've gone
I
to
think-
Google and said, what does this mean?
I think it becomes. You have to be mindful, especially I think as people who are often like I think depending on like especially if you're in the privileged aspect of whatever the like education is.
But at the same time, it's good to talk and have a dialogue.
well, I'm not saying that's wrong to have a dialogue, but
and
your
questions shouldn't be taken offensively.
I don't think it's so much people. Well, I mean, I don't know your experience, but just in like what I've heard from people, especially in regards of like gender and stuff, because there's a lot of questions in regards to that.
Right.
And obviously, there's a lot of questions too when it comes to race or cultures and stuff too.
Yeah.
But just it's just like me learning from like in gender, it gets tiring having to tell people the same things over and over when it's like you can look this up. There's resources to do so, and it shouldn't always be the burden on the person who's in the minority for what you don't understand to always have to take the burden of being like explain. Doesn't mean the dialogue doesn't mean you can't have dialogue.
Yeah.
But it's also not the person's responsibility to have to then educate you to then have an open dialogue. Maybe
No.
they're tired or you know
They don't
whatever.
have to answer the question.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the questionnaire, what do we call that person? The person asking the question, you know, is often trying to learn as opposed to trying to offend.
I think your perception might be biased in that because maybe you come from a long learning background, but in not saying that there aren't people who want to learn why people are asking questions. I do think there is a good percentage of like people that have that, but there are a lot of people, especially if they're very like they're whatever their minority is very obvious. Like maybe you're trans and it's quite obvious.
Right. Okay.
Or maybe you're black and obviously that's quite obvious. Or whatever whatever it is that
you can't take that off.
Yeah. Whatever. Yeah. Fortunately, like whatever the minority is that you're having to be the question who maybe has to educate people. There's a lot of times people will come with you in the full sense of I'm just asking you a question. I'm just trying to have a discussion with you.
It's sort of like not to offend, but I'm just asking.
So you have to be mindful because if people are constantly getting that over and over, and the majority of the people are coming not because they want to learn or they want to understand, or they're coming from a perspective of I want to understand your perspective. They're coming from a perspective of I'm a privileged person. Why you like this? Defensive immediately. The person who is in the minority who has to educate, that gets tiring.
That's true,
to do it
because
over.
that's my own experience of when I ask questions, I try to create a space where let's talk about this because I truly want to know who you are, what you're about, because I'm curious. I'm curious about spiritual practices, sexuality, all these things, and I truly am trying to create that safe space. But I understand where you're coming from because I had an example of it of my own being Native.
Mm-hmm.
I had a person that came into my life, and every time I sat down with her, I felt like she was grilling me to see how much Native knowledge do you have. And she was I felt very defensive because her questions were very aggressive and very, like you're here to tell me what you know about Native.
Yeah.
Because she's a white person and she's taking a lot of Native studies stuff.
Okay.
And I know in the Native community, there's been a lot of problems with people claiming Native heritage or Indigenous heritage or whatever. I think as a Native person, you can call it whatever you want, right? Because that's who I am, right?
Yeah.
And I've even been told by other Indigenous people that Indigenous is offensive, Native is offensive. It's First Peoples, and that's all you can call me. And I'm like, if you want to be called First Peoples, I will honor that. Yeah. But I'm not necessarily going to use that as a description for myself. Yeah. And yet I'm still in the same category. Yeah. Right? And a lot of times too, Indigenous, First Peoples, Native, Mohawk is what I am, group every tribe together and think we all do the same thing.
And it's just very There's many very different
I mean,
cultures
there's a lot of overlap, definitely.
Yeah.
And a lot of beliefs, because I just found out about
traditions and
a tribe that's on the west coast near California. It's I think it's Navajo, but don't write that in stone. But they're also a matriarchal type of society, and and it was interesting to find out about that. I'm like, oh, okay, cool,
Yeah.
And so like when she would ask me questions, well, what do you know about this, and do you have you done this? And I'm a bit of a disconnected native, only because my mother was scooped.
Yeah.
And then when she married my dad, she was kicked off the reservation.
Yeah, she was one of the kids that got taken into
Foster care.
Foster care.
Yeah.
The schools were still around at that point, but not all of them went to school. She went to one of the foster care, and that's still the situation to this day.
Yes, exactly.
Decline.
Sometimes it'll stop it temporarily.
Oh, okay. Hopefully, it didn't stop, and if it did, we're back. But
and I was just talking to someone about the residential schools because they had not outright said, but sort of hinted at, you need to move forward. Where's the reconciliation? I'm like, the last school was closed in 1996, and yes, it's been over 20 years, but it went on for way longer.
And they still have schools. I was just watching this documentary I put up on my story.
They still have residential schools?
In not here. I should specify.
Okay.
Not
I'm
here.
like, what?
Not here.
Okay.
And I don't think
Canada.
they call them.
We're talking
I
about
don't think
Canada.
they necessarily call them residential schools, but that's essentially what they are.
Oh, okay.
So in Dutch, they have Sweden
I
or
think. Switzerland?
Switzerland. Is it Switzerland? Where is it now?
Yeah, Switzerland's Dutch.
Is it Switzerland? Oh God, where was it? Anyway, somewhere out there. I have to in the Netherlands. I can't remember specifically where.
Okay, so none of this is written in stone.
So I just know they speak Dutch.
Because I think there's Dutch. Okay.
But anyways,
so the kids are taken.
The kids are taken. So they have, of course, they have Inuits there.
Oh, right.
And that's what and when it became colonized. Well, there's a lot of they often take children away because there they have to do tests. So like if you're basically like if essentially their CPS, whatever their CPS is called, which is Child Protective Services for people who don't know, comes in and then you have to do all these tests.
And if they don't do them, then they take the children?
Well, they don't pass them, then they'll take the children. And so they have these systems in place where they take, so there was the one thing that had kind of brought this up, and it's a common occurrence, this one woman who's had like 3 children taken away. The problem is with these tests are very racial and biased because it doesn't take in the culture. So they're very, I guess Inuits do a lot of non-verbal communication. So there's a lot of communication they do with their face and their body language that is not taken in consideration. Right. It's a lot, and some of the
tests up north and it's cold, your mouth will freeze open.
Exactly. And honestly, a lot of some of the tests don't even make sense. Like they have a Rorschach test as one of the tests. Like a lot of the tests they do.
So there's no wrong answer in those.
It's like, well, and they were like saying like what some person might see might be different because of course their culture is different. So what we might see versus what they would see are going to be different things. Like one of the things she provided was like examples, like you might see, I can't remember, a butterfly or something, but for
then they see a reindeer.
Well, they saw like this would be considered like I can't remember the specific name, but basically it's the spirit of an ancestor.
Oh, okay.
So like obviously those are going to play facts, but there's all different types of stuff. Also, Dutch isn't usually their first language, so there's a language barrier, and you can get a translator, but that's hard, and of course they put obstacles in that, and so not everyone gets it. So then there's another barrier as that's not your first language.
Yeah.
And so the tests are anyways basically, and so then a lot of these
slanted very much against them.
It's slanted. It's very racist, and it's basically like this hidden thing that no one has,
really looked
into exactly. And if the kids are not like placed with a nice white family, they're then put into a school.
Oh.
And a lot of their culture is taken from them.
Right.
And so because they're not taught their language, they're not taught their culture, they're not taught their anything. So it's essentially it's 100% just residential school, but just in a different area and kind
under
of
a different name.
Under a different name, under a disguise of like because what was it? I think when she did the percentage, when she showed it was like 1% or less than 1% of children would get taken away from like the typical white family, or you know, and then from the for Inuits it was like, I want to say it was like 5 or 7%. Like the margin was like drastically larger, and obviously they're all smaller. They're smaller parts.
Yeah.
So the fact it's just similar to like all the issues that happen in Canada.
Right.
But I was like, oh my god. Anyways, it was upsetting to
Yeah.
to watch that.
Yeah, for sure. It would be. Definitely.
So they're alive and well in some areas still,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Well, and like I was saying to this person, like the residential schools in Canada aren't that far away.
No.
You know, it was happening in modern times,
Well, yeah.
so to speak.
They were
right?
still.
It's not like, oh, way back when the first white men came
No.
to Canada,
Well, your
which
mom-
wasn't Canada at
Your
that
mom
point.
could have easily gone to a residential school.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
the
and that's the
reality.
thing. You either went to a residential school
Or you were
got-
taken from foster care.
Yeah. And she bounced every year to a new home until she aged out at 18.
Yeah.
And she went in when she was 7. So, yeah.
And then they do have protection. But even when I was watching about this other place in the Netherlands, because they have a similar protections. The idea is like that what the protection is if you're Indigenous Native, you're supposed to be placed with a Native and Indigenous family.
Yeah, I've
But
heard
but the problem is, if there's not enough Indigenous or Native families to go to, then you have to go to the next thing, which is
Right.
a white family or the schools.
Oh, okay.
And similar in this situation in Canada, right?
Right.
Because it's a different process.
Right.
Because I remember when I was making the will for Mina and for the kids, when I brought up the fact that I was Indigenous, she's like, okay, let's get to know, because you need to have that information.
Right.
Because if the kids ever need to be put somewhere, they
Right.
have to be put with.
Right. Oh, that's awesome.
But that, once again, doesn't mean that always happens.
No.
It's a great law, but whether or not it's followed through is the
But
problem.
at least they brought awareness to it and have it in place, whether it's working, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so one book every Canadian should read, whether you're Indigenous or not, is the 21 Things You Didn't Know About the Indian Act. Very informative book.
Yeah, you've said that. I keep meaning to read it. I
Yeah.
should read it. I gotta read it.
Yeah, it's a thin book, but like I've told many people, I would read one chapter, put it down, tell Papa about it in very angry, you know.
Frustrated detail.
Exactly.
Listen to me rant about the whole
And then I'd
thing.
be like, I'm not reading that book again. It makes me so angry. And then I'd pick it up about a week later and read another
so
one.
angry with this. Let me just read one more page.
Very, very educational. So even though it made me angry all the way through it, I'm glad I read it. And someone else recommended it to me because they knew I was Mohawk, and they said, you should read this book. And and now that I've read it, I'm like, every Canadian should read this
Yeah,
book.
it should be just part of like probably history class in
Yeah.
high school.
Absolutely, because the closest we got to Native Americans in my history is
Was pretty poor.
Louis Riel, who
Yeah.
was Métis. So he wasn't even full.
Everyone did that one.
Yeah, exactly. Canadian history.
Pretty sure I did a project on
I
him.
don't know why it's so boring, because actually we're pretty cool in some ways. You know, like we were the
They
best.
do a horrible job making our history sound.
I know, because the Americans
Wow.
are like do look at us, and meanwhile we're the best at hand-to-hand combat in World War II.
We say
we
nothing
were the
about it.
ones that were sent in to clear out
So
cities.
suck that,
Yeah, so
Americans.
we're stealthy.
try and take over Canada now. No.
Yeah, no, but I mean, even look when the guy that was shooting near Parliament or whatever, that one guy just like, whatever, boom, I'm taking you out, right? It's like, don't think because we're nice that we're weak, because we're not. We
No.
will kick your
And
ass.
I feel like the perception that Canadians are nice isn't really like, it's kind of fake politeness. It's fake niceness. Like, I mean, not
but we
fake.
do
I would say
apologize a lot.
we do. I will say, yeah,
And-
we do say
And if
sorry a
you've
lot.
met a newfie, they're always friendly.
Yeah,
You know, they're
we're
super.
I would say yeah, we're more friendly, but it doesn't mean we're not always nice. And
but
there's
there's
a lot of
assholes
jerks.
in every community, right? It's like there's always going to be a bad apple somewhere.
Yeah, and I think it's hard too because we're a lot more influenced from the States.
Yeah,
Especially
but
in,
not like if you go to the States, you know you're a Canadian.
Oh, I bet, because I'm sure they're not as like polite.
Well, I mean, they're nice. You get some really nice folks in America, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, because there's a lot of, everyday people that just are getting,
Everyday.
putting the roof over their head and all that kind of stuff. So we are definitely very similar.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean,
But
we're not
at this-
that far.
No, exactly. But it's, again, I say when you go to United States and you go into some populous area, you're a Canadian.
Oh, no.
Because, we do apologize a lot.
Yeah,
and we
I
don't
know.
realize it until you're among other
I
Americans.
feel I already know that just in Canada.
Yeah.
Like, I know I apologize a lot as a Canadian in Canada.
And you won't hear that in America. So that's where you
so
stand
you're
out.
get away. It's like, oh, sorry about that. Excuse me. Sorry. Excuse me. Sorry.
Even when I was traveling to Prague, I said sorry to something. I can't remember what. And the guy that was stamping my book went, "Are you Canadian?" Like before he even opened or saw my passport. I'm like, "Yes."
Am I that much of a giveaway?
Exactly. So yeah.
People would barely spot me in a minute. I say sorry, excuse me so often.
Yeah.
Like, excuse me, sorry about that. Excuse me,
Well,
sorry.
I've even heard, like people will put Canadian flags on their luggage to get it treated better because Canadians
are concerned, like, very nice people.
and we are nice. We're usually very polite.
We are pretty polite, yeah.
We go with the flow, and that's what you got to do at the airport. You can't.
Yeah,
you
you
get
can't
upset.
stress. It's
Yeah.
just the way it is. You can't,
Because if you've ever watched that show on Annie Airport, and people are losing their shit over stuff. One girl was losing her shit because her flight got canceled due to weather. So it's like, and I think it was, I can't remember
control
if it was
the weather.
a guy or a girl, but anyways, one of them was losing their shit, and they were demanding their money back, and I'm going to sue you. And it's like they can't control, like you said, they can't control the weather.
Don't they just rebook you onto a different flight?
Usually, yeah. And if you want to wait around for a standby or something when the storm passes.
I don't know enough about travel. I don't travel very often.
Yeah.
Not on an airplane.
I mean, I've spent the night in an airport, and that was a long stay.
Oh, geez, I can imagine. We've been pretty fortunate. We've always, because of the way our trips are, like both times, like the one we had just not even an hour overlay. Where did we do it? I can't remember now. Somewhere in the Middle East, I think, or something like that.
Okay, yeah, I know
And
that's a
then,
fly.
yeah, and then on the way back, we dropped in Ireland, which I was so mad. I'm like, oh, we're in Ireland. We never even left the damn plane.
No, exactly.
I just looked out. It's like,
Technically, you can say you have
I
gone
go to Ireland. I always really want. I really want to go to Ireland. So I was like, I looked out the window, and the person came in, and they had talked and had their accent. I'm like, I have a little bit of Ireland experience. Look,
yeah,
I was so upset. I was like, of course we go to Ireland. We don't even get to leave the stupid plane. I was so upset. It's like, this is so dumb.
And no one in the world knows what double means.
That's so
I've
weird.
used it on the air.
Really?
Yeah, I've used it on the plane.
I feel like
Even when we went to California and I was at a Starbucks, so it's pretty.
I feel like.
I said I want double, and they're like, "What does that mean?" I'm like, "What do you mean? What does
that mean?
It's like usually sugar and cream or
What
milk
else
or
would
whatever.
you think it'd be? I
Yeah.
feel like that seems weird that that's not a thing because
Two
I'm like,
peaches, two pears. That's what it means.
yeah. I feel like two coffees and two coffees and two coffees. And sorry, just double up all the coffee into one coffee mug. I just feel like that feels weird though that a double is not a thing because
Yeah, the stewardess at the plane, when I said that, she was like, "Okay, I'm just gonna give you lots of cream and sugar." It's like, doesn't double imply two?
Don't you? Yeah, like what does double mean?
Yeah.
What do you think double means? Well, two. Okay, so if I say double, what do you think that means together? 4.
Right.
Okay, what 2 things could I be doubling up on? What typically goes into coffee?
Yeah,
Cream
I've
and
used
sugar.
it at 4 different places outside of Canada, and not one of them knew what it meant.
That's so weird.
Yeah, yeah.
See, I don't say double as much only because I often order my coffee now with 2 oat milk.
Oh, yeah. So you have to specify.
I could say double but use oat milk, but because oftentimes, of course, as knowing a cashier, you just go ahead as soon as you hear the first word, you start typing in. So I often preset what so they don't have to go back because it's annoying for them.
Yes.
So I always be like, oh, I want 2 oat milk, 2 sugar.
Right.
Otherwise, I usually would just do unless I know they don't have like a milk alternative. I'll just say
Right.
double. But
Yeah. And it's hard to get milk in Europe at all.
really,
Yeah, yeah. Especially cold milk.
oh god.
They usually have it at room temperature.
I'm
I'm
sure
like,
it's fine, but it would be weird. when you're not used to it. Because I don't drink milk very often. I don't.
I go through phases where I really
I
want
used,
milk.
Yeah, I would go through phases. It's been a long time since I gone through phases, mainly because I find like my body just doesn't like at least pure milk as much. But
well, if you're lactose sensitive, which I kind of can be, I like the 1% because it's like it's not as heavy as the 2, and but it's not like white water like the skim is.
I like the 2. We used to get, because of course when the kids went from formula to milk.
Oh yeah.
You have to get the 3
yeah.
3 whatever. I loved it. I thought it was so good. I liked the thickness of it. I was like, and then I was like, it's expensive. We'll get the 2. I'm like,
yeah.
we'll get the 2.
Yeah.
Although now I don't really drink milk unless I'm like having cereal or something. I usually put milk in things.
Right.
So I don't drink it often, like just.
Well, that's why I didn't
up.
eat cereal at our hotel. I didn't eat cereal.
Oh, because it was just like room temperature.
It was room temperature milk, which is just weird. Plus, they had eggs and bacon and stuff, which of course you're gonna go for that.
I was gonna say, who's going for this cereal unless you're some psycho?
Yeah, exactly. And it wasn't even like the cute little boxes of cereal. It was like one of those spin and pour kind of things, which is fine.
I was gonna say that's kind of fun.
Yeah,
I'd do it maybe just for fun.
I've seen kids like this hotel was a very swanky hotel, so it was full in a dining room and everything. It was all included, so it was great. But I've been at other like sort of less expensive hotels where they do have the breakfast bar.
Yeah. Yeah, when I
and I've seen kids like just keep spinning that cereal thing.
I mean, it's fun.
It's fun to do, right?
I feel like I would even be like accidentally pull a few times because like I'm not going to eat all this, but it was fun to pull.
Exactly. Right.
I like twisting the handle, all the
watching it come out. It's like a bubblegum machine that doesn't end.
I know, right? Actually, it'd be a good idea to get at home.
Yeah,
you can probably order something like that.
Yeah, you probably can. Yeah, you can get all kinds of things now that you couldn't get before.
I know, I love that.
I know, me too.
I mean, as much as I don't like what it does to the environment.
Yeah.
I do worry about my children's future and my children choose to have children.
Just take the opportunity to plant a couple extra trees.
Yeah.
Because when you plant a tree, you're planting it for the next generation. It's not your own.
Yes, this is true. Yes, everyone just plant trees. I'll offset all the horrible things we're doing to the planet.
Hopefully. Mother Nature's stronger than we give her credit for sometimes, though.
That's true.
Because even during the lockdown...
Well, she started perking right back up.
She
we were the problem. Shocking.
Yeah.
Humans were the
problem.
problem.
The cockroaches in the house. And
because like wasn't there like the cleaner air, the water started coming clean, sharks and whales started going back to the normal migration,
and dolphins
we're seeing somewhere where they hadn't been seen forever. Like it was all the shit was like back in order. So if us humans just stop fucking about.
Well, if every 3 years we just went through a month-long lockdown.
Yeah.
On a regular, it's lockdown month, like purge, right?
Yeah. Just purge everyone.
Well, no, not purge everyone. I'm thinking of the lockdown that the people do for purge, right? They just shutter everything. I know,
but when you say just do a purge,
just do a purge. Well, it is kind of like it's us. It's the problem.
I mean, technically there was a purge.
I mean, Mother Nature does fluctuate, right? So
because it does.
The first couple of ice ages weren't our fault.
That's true.
And yet humankind was almost wiped out.
And yet we're still here.
But you can't kill the cockroaches.
Oh. That's going to be my next Halloween costume. Just a cockroach.
A giant cockroach.
A giant cockroach. You can't get rid of us. Just try it, fuckers. Humans will be here. If we destroy this one, apparently we'll just go on to the next one. I don't know.
Yeah. We're now scouting out the next planet.
Yeah.
We're like, Mars is pretty close to us. Maybe we can live there.
Well, they said Mars, no, I don't know everything. I haven't, but I've heard that some of the things they've done is shown that
it could be habitable.
Well, habitable, but also that Mars was similar in regards to had water and vegetation, from what
they've discovered water, I think, or ice or something on Mars.
Yeah, and in evidence of more of that, not just not that's necessarily all there, but there was evidence of this used to be whatever or whatever.
And it had life at one point.
Yeah, or something. So I'm like, that's pretty effing cool. But that's did we live on Mars and then we left Mars because we destroyed it and then we keep
pretty sure we didn't live on Mars.
I know we did. I just laugh about that. I was like, was that Mars just a trail of one of our ones that we've just left behind? The cockroach continues.
Exactly. Oh, it's sort
We
of
have
like
no memory of it though.
the crabs that just keep getting new shells.
Yes, the hermit crabs. You mean?
Well, whatever sea animal that is that adopts the
Yeah, that's a hermit
shell.
crab.
That's a hermit crab.
Hermit
Okay.
crab. They
Yeah.
they like look for new shells.
Yeah, they're always looking for a bigger, better shell, but they have to wait for the snail or the creature that naturally lives in the shell to either die or leave it. And then it's like, okay, I'll take over that house.
Oh, I've been eyeing this one
this
for a
hat,
while.
this hat fits perfectly.
Yeah.
Off they go.
Been eyeing that one for a while.
Exactly. Been waiting for that one to get in the market.
God.
Oh.
So we're just looking for a new shell, apparently. We're cockroaches and hermit crabs
Yeah.
all in one.
That's right. We're a combination of it all. Well, we did crawl out of the water, so the sign says.
Actually, I was talking about crawling out water. I was talking about to my friend. We were talking about how we obviously believe in aliens.
Okay.
Because like we were talking about how it doesn't make sense. I mean, not everyone has to agree with me. That's fine. I
Yeah.
know I'm weird.
That's okay. I think I'm of the opinion if you think there's no other life out there, then you're pretty
well,
conceited
yeah.
in that
I
viewpoint.
was gonna say I think most people believe there's a chance.
Of
I
course,
mean-
there's a chance. I mean, we're 1 in a billion chance ourselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, it could happen. I mean, does it happen on every planet? Is it a common thing? Probably not.
No, it's
But
hard to
in
know.
the trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of galaxies and stars
That
and
continues
planets
to expand.
that continues to expand. Surely,
Never ending.
surely to God,
Surely to God. There's another God.
there's another form of life that is intelligent and
Yeah.
aware, self-aware.
But we were just talking about like because they're saying like in various different cultures and like in history you see like the same depictions of like certain things.
Yeah.
And one of the things is like talking about sky people coming
Yeah.
down and into the water and coming out to the water and educating. I think indigenous culture, I think they either just come from the sky or they just come from the water. I can't remember. But in somewhere else, I can't remember where it was now.
Yeah, the Mohawk creation story, the sky woman comes down.
Yeah, but there's another one where in a different culture, I don't remember where now, but they come from the sky and they go into the water,
Oh,
and then
okay.
they come from the water and they educate them.
Well, she's
Not the
sky woman is going to fall into the water, but the turtle lets her land on his back. And then a bunch of animals go down, and there's one that sacrifices himself. I think it's either the beaver or the muskrat or something. I don't quite remember. I should remember this, but he brings up a handful of dirt because a lot of animals can't get down that far, and he does, but he ends up dying because of it.
That's so
But
sweet.
I know, I cry every time I read that part.
Just you telling me like that's so sad.
But he gives the dirt over to Sky Woman, and she sprinkles it on Turtle. That's why North America is known as Turtle Island,
yeah.
right? And then she gets seeds somehow, and she plants the seeds, and they grow, and it becomes a beautiful
Yeah.
forest. And
Anyways, so different things like that. There's a lot of like that continuous theme.
yeah,
Of
yeah.
like sky people coming down.
Yeah.
And then we were talking about the pyramids.
Oh, okay, yeah, because even to this day,
They can't figure
out how they were built.
It's too precise. The precision's too precise. There's no feasible way. We were talking about probably because she had just watched a couple documentaries on it.
Okay,
So
yeah.
we here and I were like, "Rah, rah, rah."
Stonehenge is supposed to have a similar type thing.
Yeah. Well, and they determined they're big. Like they're no like because before we'd be like, oh, just the head. No, if you dig down, they're a whole body.
Yeah,
They're a
yeah.
whole damn body.
And Easter Island too. They can't figure out how they made those heads.
Yeah.
And they're huge.
aliens.
Huge.
I tell
and
you.
apparently, who is it that we're watching? Is it David Attenborough? He has a series on Netflix, and he's talking about and exploring. Like he explores. I hope I've got the right term or name. I'm not sure I do. I'll have to look it up and put it in the comments. But it's on Netflix, and he started out as a journalist, but he's teamed up with a lot of archaeologists that think outside the box.
Okay.
So not what
what the day and age,
Common-
what's the thing is that we say right now based
Exactly.
on the science or
because
whatever.
a lot of native communities you'll see hills. Like now they've proven that the Mohawks had blacksmithing abilities. Or the
I remember you saying that.
Haudenosaunee, right? But also there's this, I think it's in South America, there's this big giant snake that covers across a couple of
I feel like I remember seeing
countries.
something about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like they don't know what it's for, one guy's theory is they started piling garbage and then they put dirt over it to stop the flies from getting in.
Oh.
And they just kind of kept going, but they do it in this serpent pattern, and it's just like, I guess that could be one. Like, it's not a glamorous theory, but it's a cool.
God, I hope it's a little bit more than that.
Yeah, it's like,
we just had too much stanky shit that we just had to.
well, you know, they would have like they wouldn't have cans or anything like that, but they had a lot of food leftovers and stuff.
Yeah.
And I guess I see that dirt would be a good thing.
Yeah, I guess just one big compost pile that's
exactly
just hardened up over the years.
Yeah, and it's like, oh my goodness. So that's the same show I was telling you about where they've seen there's like these sand plains. This is where they go often to test the sound barrier on vehicles and stuff. But they found in native territory, so the cars don't race there, right?
Yeah.
In native territory, they found like giant kind of Bigfoot footprints.
That's so cool.
I know. Right?
I believe giants were real.
I do too.
I believe aliens are real.
Yeah.
I am a crazy person. I believe all types of things are real.
Yeah. I believe fairies are real.
Yeah, fairies, mermaids.
I mean, we've changed them into lore,
Yeah.
but I think they had a presence.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and oftentimes you see a lot of times too. Sometimes people will say, like fairies and angels are the same, and like who knows, maybe they were just aliens at one point.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, I can see that, right? Because I've had a couple of angel encounters, and they're very tall. Like they're not the cute little angels that people think they are.
They have multiple eyes. No.
Yeah.
They're a big ball with multiple eyes.
Well, when 4 of them came down and surrounded me and held me, I was basically at below crotch level, basically.
Ew. No, sorry.
When I was standing. I mean, not that you're thinking about that when the angels are there. But like even when I looked up a little bit, I was still looking at waist.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So it was like.
So they'd be tall. I mean,
They're very tall.
you're not super tall, but that's still tall.
Still tall. Yeah.
I'd still be like, I'd probably be at their waist.
Right. Yeah. Who knows? But it's like, yeah, it was like crazy. But yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. What time are we at?
We are at 11:20, so we've been on for an hour and 12.
Okay. So I guess that's it.
That's it.
If you covered a few topics.
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments what you think of our talk today. If you have any opinions.
Exactly.
If you'd like to
aliens?
continue a conversation on anything we talked about, let us know in the comments.
Or something else random that we haven't talked about that you'd like us to talk about.
Yeah, we'll talk about anything. See what our
Everything
opinions
and nothing
are.
at all.
Exactly. That's why we named it this, so that we can just randomly do stuff.
We just have conversations, and then we're like,
Yeah.
maybe people want to hear our conversations, so
Yeah.
then we just started recording our conversations.
And we're both very well read, so not everything is written in stone, and we
say
will
well-read.
qualify that.
well read in smut.
Yeah, she's well read in smut, but you do have a degree too.
I do.
So, and it's
Yes,
not
that's
smut.
how yeah, it's not in smut. A degree that makes me somehow an expert on everything all of a sudden.
All right. Well, this has been great. Like this video,
Yeah, subscribe,
up.
thumbs up, subscribe, comment if you want,
share
share
if you want to share
your
with
friends,
your friends.
family.
Listen to it over and over so we get lots of views.
Yeah, maybe you find our voices calming.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Who knows?
And now we both get quiet and calm. You
Now
might
take
ask,
a
'cause we're
deep
calm.
breath.
That's right.
Close your eyes.
Don't forget to do your 40 deep breaths a day. That's how many you're supposed to
Deep
do.
breaths a day. I feel like I do one.
I was doing my last 10 last night as I fell asleep to your father's snoring.
That sounds so peaceful.
Well, I like when I blow out, I don't hear him snoring.
So that's why she does it, because it's the only way she can fall asleep. I have to be louder at breathing than he is so that I can fall asleep.
Well, it does get my deep breaths in, so there you go. There you go. All right.
All
you
right.
can turn it off there.
Bye-bye.
Bye.